I always forget to click the record agreement.
All right. Well, I think we'll go ahead and get started. I know there are many people who are interested in this topic that are going to be watching this recorded afterwards. So appreciate those of you who are here live. And then thank you for those of you who are going to be listening to this recording as well too, as this is the first year for this new application process. So we know there's going to be a lot of questions and hopefully not too many bumps as we go, but we'll see how everything goes throughout the year and this fall, and we're really excited for this new season of new applicants and interviews this fall. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Megan Robarchek. I am currently the Fellowship Director, the Global EM Fellowship Director at the University of Pennsylvania, and I am the immediate past chair now of the GEMFC. We also have Michelle Feltes here, who's the current chair, so I'll let her start it off, and then we'll just get right to it.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Thanks, Megan, for deciding to do this webinar. This is something I think a lot of people have been interested in. I've had a lot of individuals ask me questions about the application process and the website and all that stuff. So thank you so much for doing this. And then the only thing that I really wanted to talk about, I was trying to pull up the dates. So I'm going to put these into the chat. I think that should be still visible. I'm not sure. I think that'll be visible during the recording. But if not, I'll also summarize it again at the end, just for like the dates for everybody. I'm looking forward to like an excellent application season. I'm always happy to answer any questions. So I'll also put my email address into the chat as well. So anybody wants to ask me anything, I'm always happy to answer stuff. And I'll turn it back over to Megan.
Perfect. All right, so let me just give a little bit of background on where our journey in terms of the application process for Global Emergency Medicine Fellowships, and then kind of where we are now. So those of you might have remembered in the remote past, each program kind of had its own individual applications, and the fellowships were not a part of the match process. And now slowly over the last several years, through the efforts of many individuals that have come before me and Michelle, we went to a centralized kind of online application process, and then joined the match as well. And now this year we have taken that centralized application process and truly made it more centralized. That it kind of is a single application through the SAM portal, and then kind of ways you can customize that for different programs that do have different application requirements. And kind of the timeline for this is throughout the summer. And then most programs, if you check the website, have deadlines sometime in September with interviews in October. And then match day this year is November 8th. So that's kind of the general timeline, as Dr. Felt has just posted in the chat as well too. And you can find that timeline, since we do adhere to the match, that all that information is on the match website. So that is something very important to keep in mind, that yes, this application process is through at the SAM website for the actual applications, but then when you actually go to match with a program, you do have to do that separately through the match website, which we're not going to go through tonight, but just so you're aware that you're applying through SAM, but when you go to finally rank your programs, all of that, that has to be done separately through the match website. But now let me take you to our new website. So those of you might remember the website that we previously had, as I mentioned, with that first kind of online application, was iemfellowships.com. And so a lot of people know that. A lot of people have that on, brochures for their programs and things like that. And so the good thing is that when you type that into a search bar or Google search that, it's going to take you directly to the new website. So it automatically redirects. So you won't see that old website, but that link is still going to work. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And just bear with me because it's going to be a lot of changing tabs and sharing of screen. I'll try to make it as smooth as possible. All right, so when you type in iemfellowships.com into the Google search bar, as I mentioned, or if you go to the S site and get yourself into GEMA or search for this website itself, sam.org/GEMFC, it's going to take you to this website. And for those of you who remember the old website, it looks a lot like this. So they've been able to kind of preserve some of the way it looked just so that's a little bit familiar to people. So if you go ahead and scroll down, so this starts to get you into the information. Let me just move my Zoom bar out of the way. This gets you into the information about applying for a fellowship. So if you're interested in applying for a Global Emergency Medicine Fellowship this year, this is where you need to go. And before I even go through a lot of the explanations we're going to talk about today, there are excellent instructions that SAM has put up here for each one of these steps. So for those of you who are interested in applying to fellowships, if you click on these, there are very comprehensive instructions that take you step by step through each stage of the process. So we'll go through some of those today, but if you forget anything, those are here. For those who are program directors or who are involved in reviewing applications for a program, there's instructions here. And then for those of you who are asking for recommendations, so those who are applying or those people who have gotten emails about submitting letters of recommendation, those instructions are here. So like I said, we're going to go over some of this today, but much more comprehensive steps are outlined on each one of these tabs. And I encourage you to take a look at them, direct the folks that you're asking for letters of recommendation to that. And then for those of you who are in program leadership, make sure you take a look at this as well too. But the website here, so we'll go to the application portal in a second, but we have posted the information that Michelle also posted in the chat about the match. So again, remember, this is not the actual match process, but we did provide some of that information here for your reference. Okay. And then if you keep scrolling down to the end, so for those of you who are interested in applying, you can find out about all the fellowship programs here. So if you click on this link, this takes you to the fellowship program. So you may have remembered the old website was a whole list of programs that were outlined just like this with their logos, and then ways to go to more information on this website here, plus the program's own personal website through their own home institutional page. So that's what each of these links are. So a lot of what you're going to see tonight is me clicking on UPenn because obviously that's my program. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll all the way down to that one. So as you can see, there are many. I think we're up to about 36 or 38 now. So you have to go to each one of these. So I'm going to go to UPenn and we're going to learn a little bit more about the UPenn Fellowship. So most of the programs have on their website outlines about their fellowship, goals and objectives, maybe external links to other sites, pictures. They're going to list how many positions that they have open for this year. Parts of their curriculum, projects, and there's also kind of links to maps and other things through here. And then if you go back to that homepage as well too, there's another tab at the bottom right next to the one I just clicked on to see the programs, where you can just see individual projects as well too. Alumni and current fellows of the program, contacts, and then additional information. And this is really important about, so each program itself does have some specific things that they want for their application. So most programs will want the general application form, 3 letters of recommendation, like a personal statement, things like that. But make sure you check this portion of each program you're going to apply to, because some of them do have some specific requirements. They want letters of recommendation from certain people, or they want a letter of intent in addition to a personal statement. So make sure you kind of check this part of each program's page for any specific information. Also, this will be where there's important dates in terms of where that particular program's interview date, when their application deadline is. And for the most part, application deadlines are kind of right around midnight on the day that they list here. But just make sure, double check, make sure that there are no specific details to your program that you're applying to. So that's how you kind of get information about the programs that you're interested in applying to if you're an applicant. So let's say you wanted to now apply to the UPenn program. So you could click on right down here, application portal. You can also get onto the application portal back from the main site as well too. So back here to the application portal. So then once you get into the application portal, so when you click on this, that's going to take you to the survey. Well, I'll go ahead and I guess click on it here. But I'm going to have to switch to a different tab here because I want to make sure that I'm in the right tab. So this is going to take you to a sign in place. I'm already signed in through here as a program director. So I'm going to switch to a different tab where I've signed in as an applicant. So give me 1 second to change my tabs. There we go. Okay. So here you have to log in using your SAM login. If you don't have one, you just have to go to the SAM. So the instructions tell you to go to the SAM login website to just create a profile. Don't create a profile through SurveyMonkey Apply. Do it through SAM. So no worries if you're not like an SAM member or have like a specific login. You can make one by going through to that website. But then once you log in on that website, it'll take you to this kind of homepage where it looks to see how many applications. So right now I haven't applied to any programs, but if I was interested in applying to a program, I would go to view programs, and there's many other applications through the SAM Foundation like login website. And so you want to go to the Global EM Fellowship application. So that's what you're applying for. So you'll click, it'll take you to here, you'll click apply. And then you want to name your application. So it may look like you need to do a new application for every single program, but I'll show you as we go through. Once you've done it once, you can basically click a button that says this information again. So you do kind of need to individually apply to every program, but you don't have to sit and fill out the same application form, 10 times if you're applying to 10 programs. You can do this once and then say use the information again. But you do need to kind of name every application. So what we recommend doing is naming the application for the program that you're applying to. So let's say I was just going to do Megan Barczyk and UPenn, if I was going to apply to UPenn, just so I can keep track of it. Because if you do have, if there are programs with specific requirements that need, more letters of recommendation or whatnot, you want to be able to kind of customize those applications as well too. Then you go ahead and create application. And then it takes you into the application itself. So there's an application form. You can upload your personal statement, your CV. You can request letters of recommendation through here if there's like a letter of intent, if that's also required for a specific program, and then any other program specific requirements here. So as you go through this, you'll start off with selecting the program that you wish to apply to. So let me go to UPenn. Let's see. Penn Global Emergency Medicine Fellowship Program. And then just like any other online application, go through the different steps. And so you'll do this once, and then when you kind of make a new application again, there's going to be an option to click and say reuse old data. So you don't have to keep filling this in every single time. But for each application, you do need to fill out, all of these things, make sure all of these are complete. So make sure all of these different parts of the application are complete before you submit. Any questions so far? I think it's pretty straightforward there. And if you run into any issues, like I said, referring back to those instructions is always helpful. And then you can always reach out to gemfc@sam.org with questions. You can reach out directly to, so that goes to folks at SAEM. You can email IEM Fellowships Consortium at gmail.com, which goes directly to us as well to ask questions. And then there's always support through just the SurveyMonkey Apply site as well. So depending on the nature of your question, whether it's something technical with an error on the page versus something more specific to thinking about like actually applying for a program, you can reach out to each one of those folks. Okay. Let me go quickly to just the requesting letter of recommendation. So when you do that portion of it, what you basically need is the recommender's first name, last name, their email, and then you can write a personalized message to them. And then let me show you kind of how that shows up in the person's inbox. So once you send that, so this is a message for a letter of recommendation that I received, and it basically shows this. So it says, dear so-and-so, this person has invited you and then, you know, the personalized message is here. And then they're just asking that recommenders have their name, email address, and phone number. So for example, if any sort of program directors want to reach out and ask more questions, they have that. And so recommenders then click on this. It takes them right to the SurveyMonkey apply to log in. And it's very easy to do this. They can upload, you know, PDFs, Word documents, all that kind of stuff. So very straightforward for recommenders as well too. But if they have any questions, again, those instructions are on the website. All right. Questions so far? Anything in the chat? I'm not seeing anything.
No, nothing in the chat yet.
Great. Well, I was planning on spending like the first 20 to 25 minutes or so talking about this kind of information for applicants. So I want to make sure we open it up and have some time for questions. And then even if it's not specific to this, you know, the nuts and bolts of the application itself, is there anyone who's a potential applicant now who just has other general questions about applying for fellowships, the fellowships in general, kind of open it up to kind of general questions right now from any potential applicants? Feel free to unmute or post things in the chat.
Well, I can start thinking about that. I think I'll bring up some questions that I've gotten asked before, just to kind of as like an FAQ. Somebody asked me if they needed to submit their applications as soon as things opened, like the way that ERAS was for a residency application. Global EM fellowships are not like that. This is something, as long as you submit by the deadline, you're okay. I would not wait until last minute, like 11:59, just in case there's technical glitches, but it is definitely okay to be submitting things like up until that application deadline. Another tip, I would think, given when you're asking for recommendations, I would do a separate email asking to confirm that somebody will give you the recommendation, and then include the link to the instructions in that email. And then they'll also, once they agree to give you the recommendation, then you can invite them to provide that letter, and then they'll get sent that email specifically directing them to upload the letter. Those are the two kind of things that I could think of.
Hi, how are you guys? My name is Charmaine. I'm a
Yeah.
resident at Buffalo. Thank you guys for hosting this. I guess like the two questions I have are I know that some programs are not like affiliated with GME, and it's kind of just like you get paid a certain salary. But I guess I wanted to ask, is that kind of the norm for all of these programs? And if it's not, like if there's pros and cons to that? And can you talk a little bit about the interview process as well?
So for the GME, all of us have to be at least somewhat affiliated with the GME in order to be part of the NRMP match. But we are not an ACGME fellowship, which means that we don't have the same types of requirements. So when you think about like EMS or PEM, they have very, very strict requirements about what their fellows are able to do when things like that. Like very, very strict, like lots and lots of paperwork. One of the benefits for us about not being ACGME is it means each program gets to have a different flavor. So I think there's a lot of programs are going to have kind of an area that they focus on. So some programs are going to be more humanitarian or disaster response. Some programs are going to be much more like system strengthening and education focus. And so each program is different. And so we have a lot more flexibility within the programs to make sure that we're kind of playing to our own strengths. We're not all trying to hit the same topics with the same kind of level of depth. So I think that's like one of the biggest benefits for not being officially ACGME. The salary varies by program. Some programs are going to pay you as if you're PGY 4, 5, 6, etc. Some programs are going to have like a different fellow salary rate that's not tied to PGY year. That's one of those things that's institution. That's probably not going to be on the GMFC website. That may be on the institutional website. That's also one of the questions that I think program directors get a lot. So that's like one of the things. I don't think anybody would be offended by you asking how much you would get paid. Like that's kind of important. So like for like for the first question. Then I'm sorry, for what was your second question?
I guess if you knew more about like what the interview
Interview.
process gonna look like, and if it's like online or in person.
So this is another one that's very flexible. I think a lot of people will do online interviews over Zoom. A lot of people will have an option of doing an in-person interview, and a lot of programs will have an option of doing an ASAP interview. The ASAP ones are kind of nice for applicants because you can kind of bundle like in one trip, kind of bundle a couple of interviews together. And so it ends up, and it's like a way to see somebody in person. So you kind of get that in-person feel without having to actually like go out. That's something that's like, that's just very program dependent. Megan, anything else to add about that?
No, I think you covered it all in terms of the GME question. Definitely agree in terms of the keeping the flexibility. There are some programs that kind of a separate process. SAM has its own kind of fellowship approval committee and process just for kind of ensuring quality standardization of fellowships. Fellowships, in my experience, usually apply for that after being fellowships for a few years because they want to make sure they have a good cohort of faculty, that they've had a track record and all of that, because that helps with the SAM fellowship approval process. That is another way of kind of judging programs and things like that. So I know some of the global programs have started doing that. It's kind of a fairly new process, especially for global. So not many programs are, but some programs have started to do that as well. And then, yeah, in terms of the interview process, I think most people this year are going to still kind of remain virtual, but kind of keep it flexible in terms of the options for maybe like a follow-up in-person experience or like an ASAP. For us personally this year, our fellowship day, interview day is on the 13th. And so it's just the day after ASAP ends. And since ASAP is in Philly, we're hoping to kind of have like a social event maybe the night before and kind of get people together in person, but then kind of continue the interview process virtually for those who have to travel back or things like that. So yeah. Great questions.
Thank you.
That's really nice for the Philly folks. It's awesome.
I was very glad to see ASAP here this year. Yes.
Makes it so easy. Any other questions?
Hi, this is Charlene Berto from UCSF Fresno. I apologize, I don't have my video on. I just finished shift and was still at work. But I did have a question about the letter of recommendations. I think the last time I looked at the GMA website there, I think it noted the max of 3 letters of recommendations, and I was having a possibility of 4. I was wondering if that's a flexible thing for each application, or if it does just kind of cut off at 3. And if it's possible or frowned upon to submit an extra letter of recommendation to the program?
I haven't played with the website to know if it's possible to do 4. Megan, I don't know if you know about that.
Yeah, I don't think we've had any program get letters like several letters of recommendation yet. I don't know if it is a hard max at 3. That being said, there is the possibility of personally uploading other materials in that kind of last column. It would be one though where the letter then would not be anonymous to you. So the process as it is now, the letters submit, and so you kind of like waive your right to see the letter, and so the letters just go directly to the programs to be able to see. You just kind of assign them. But if, for example, there is a program who wanted an additional bit of information, we'll have to kind of see how that plays out this year for that max. I think it could probably be uploaded and you can just choose. If not, there's always that option of kind of doing another letter, or you can just have the recommender send it directly to the program itself. And then that'll be something kind of feedback as we kind of troubleshoot this first year. We find if there's any tweaks that need to be made for next year, we may need to make that if that's the case. So yeah. I would say
And
for now, probably the way to approach it would probably be if the system doesn't let you do it, ask your recommender to send it directly to the program. Every program kind of has its the personal contact that's listed there. So you can have them just email it directly to them.
Great,
I
thanks so
also
much.
think because this is the first year we're doing this, once you finish everything for a particular program, I would email the like the contact person for that program just to confirm that they got it. That way, you just get that confirmation just so we know that things are working properly. If you think you've done everything and the program has not received it, then that's something that those of us at SAM and GMFC need to know. So definitely email us if you see that happening. You might want to give it like a day just to make sure there's like no lag time or anything like that. But at least for the materials that you yourself are uploading, please get confirmation that that process works.
Yeah, from what I can tell from testing the website, you do get a lot of feedback from like submitted things. So for example, when I uploaded a letter of recommendation, I got confirmation that it was uploaded, and then I got another separate confirmation that it was accepted and received. So as an email back. So I believe the same process happens with the applications, but you have to make sure that you hit that like final submit button. Like just because all those, so let me share my screen again. Give us this one. Yeah. So just because all these circles are green on the side, unless you hit kind of the final like submit button, it's not actually submitted. So don't think just because all the letter or the circles turn green that you're done. So just make sure that once they are green, you've reviewed it, then you hit the submit button. And then there's a dashboard. It'll take you back to the dashboard in terms of your applications and things like that, to be able to follow that. And there's an activity tab as well too, to show like what activity like you've done in the website as well too, as a double check. But again, this is the first year, so it's always good. I agree with what Dr. Felt has said. Is just, especially for the programs you're really excited to apply to, like just send a quick message and be like, just checking that you received all my information. So great question.
Any advice on kind of interview day? Are they all going to be different depending on the programs in terms of length and kind of content?
They're going to be different from program to program. A lot of it also depends on if they have like a separate day that's outside of ASAP or if it's all at ASAP. When we have ASAP kind of interviews, it tends to be the program director or program director and co-director, and maybe another interview with another person. There'll also be like a maybe set up asynchronously from that for meeting with like somebody who's like another member of the Global EM section. There may be another interview with somebody like the fellowship, like at Stanford, we have a director of all the fellowships who kind of oversees all of it, all the fellowships. And so she meets with most of our applicants as well. And so those can also kind of be scattered throughout. Those meetings may not happen at ASAP though. So it may end up not being so much like an interview day, especially if these are virtual, and maybe several interviews like over a few different days because of schedule limitations. But we try to make it as
Thank you so
flexible
much.
as possible.
Cool.
If
Thank you so much.
if it's in person, then it'll be kind of usually like half day-ish, but that'll clarify that when they're scheduling the interviews with you.
Yeah, I think most programs try to make it pretty flexible if they can. We understand how crazy resident schedule is. And so, if they try to do it all in one day, trying to keep it compact, You know, if you happen to need like, you know, different days or different timings for some reason because of certain things, restrictions from your residency, you know, just reach out and ask. Usually the earlier the better. And if you're able to ask and try to provide, you know, alternative dates, that kind of thing, if you're able to, I think most programs are willing to be pretty flexible. But yeah, I think as Dr. Felt has said, every program's a bit different. For example, we have you, you know, interview with folks who know some global EM work, you know, the fellows, obviously as well too. You meet with our COO who can kind of go through all those nuts and bolts as you guys were asking about, like salary and benefits and all that kind of stuff. So you kind of get all those questions answered during the fellowship day too, because you know you're interviewing the program probably even more so than they're interviewing you. This is you're taking 1-2 years out of you know what you could be doing as an attending to get some extra training in a very specific niche. And so you want to make sure that it's something that's right for you and it's a great fit. It's where you're going to be your first attending as well too, potentially. And so you want to make sure that you get a good clinical experience and then also get the training that you're looking for in global emergency medicine. So.
Yeah, totally agree with all of that. This is something where if you don't have an in-person day, like you may not actually see your the department you end up working in until you actually start working as a fellow. That actually happened to me even pre-COVID. I did a virtual interview at Stanford and then sorry, at ASAP with the Stanford fellowship directors, and then actually walked into the department the first time when I started fellowship. So that is something that definitely happens. And with Global EM, it actually happened even before COVID. Because I think for a long time, we've had a focus on flexibility for a lot of this stuff. And then one thing I do just want to bring up, Dr. Barczyk already pointed out the program requirements. That's also the place where you're going to see things like, do you need to be a graduate from a 4-year program? Is this only for a 2-year applicant, like a 2-year fellowship? Kind of limitations like that. So that is something to definitely look out for. And if it's something where you think you meet somebody's criteria, but you're not sure, like if they do have some limitations on that, then that's also something that's worth an email to the program contact person.
Great. Any other questions?
Sorry, I had to take up time out of, you know, if you guys had something planned for us for a little bit later, but you know, we'll answer this like later or now, but I guess I wanted to ask, with your experience of, you know, interacting with like the global health EM community and different programs, what have you noticed, like, and what should we look at as applicants that, you know, really show us that this is like a strong program? And what are, you know, because there's such a difference in curriculum and what the focus is, like, what are like some red flags of a program too?
I think for me, the biggest like green flag is
Oh, Michelle, you're about.
am I?
No, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. I think the biggest green flag is are they working in areas that you're interested in? If you somebody who's interested in humanitarian work, there are some programs that are just don't have a focus in that. Like they can help you get like a little bit of exposure, but that's not going to be the main focus of your fellowship projects. That's kind of like the biggest one is just like you want to make sure your interests are aligning with what they currently do. I think having like a few different options for like a few different faculty advisors, like potential like out like both the fellowship directors as well as like a couple of other faculty that also have interests that seem to align. That's also something that's really nice. So it's nice if you have like a few people, but that's not if you have a couple that do exactly what you're interested in, that's also enough. It's just it kind of just depends on what you're looking for from that. Those are my biggest like green flags. I think red flag, it's really like Dr. Barczyk was saying, like this is really like a match kind of thing. Like this is something where you're trying to make sure that you get an experience that you want. And so if you're hearing about the clinical day-to-day stuff and you're like, that sounds horrible, I would never want to do that, that is probably not a good place for you. If you're hearing about the projects and you're like, all of that sounds boring, that's also probably not a good place. And then this is one of the things, you spend a fair amount of time with meetings or on trips with your fellowship directors. And so you want to make sure like you feel like you have a good rapport with them. Like that can be incredibly hard to judge in like an hour. But that's what you're trying to get at. Um, Also, most programs will make either current fellows or recent grads available via email or via another Zoom or something that's like kind of outside the interview. Like you may end up meeting with the fellows during the interview process too, but you want to make sure you're having a chance to also just ask questions about things like what it's like to live in that area. Like you want to have some kind of chance to have some uncensored question time. That's like one of the things, like social events are great for that kind of thing, like just kind of getting like the vibe of the place. Um, you just kind of want to be able to have that kind of opportunity. I think that'd be my biggest like red flag, is if you just don't feel like you match.
Yeah, I would say I agree with all of that. There, in terms of the kind of general structure of programs out there, there are some programs that um, are a little bit more broad and are more focused on giving you a broad exposure to different areas of global emergency medicine. Then there are others that are very focused on one track or only send you to one place and you're there for, 6 months, 8 months out of the year, things like that. So kind of weigh that, like what you want to get out of your fellowship. Do you want the kind of broad experience? Do you want to try to like explore, find your niche, and then be able to kind of pursue that? Or do you want to there's a specific project where you're like, I love this, I want to get into this, and that's what you're going to do for the time during the fellowship. So keep that in mind. And then there are ones that are more, you hit the ground running, and they kind of expect you to have like some experience under your belt and kind of not maybe start from the beginning, versus others that are like very I don't want to say like more supportive, but just provide like more structure and kind of a progression through like your training and stuff like that. So kind of keep that in mind on where you want to be someone who's kind of like coming in with your own ideas and want to just get them off going, versus someone who kind of wants to start from the beginning a little bit more, or just like take some time exploring as well too and need a little bit more structure to start off with. So kind of keep that in mind. But then yeah, otherwise I totally agree with what Dr. Felt has said as well too. So
The other thing to consider is advanced degrees. So a lot of programs, not all, but a lot, will have the opportunity to do a 2-year fellowship with getting a master's. Some programs are very specific, like they want you to do an MPH at a specific school, which also ties you to a specific like class schedule. Sometimes that class schedule is in person, sometimes it's not. And so that kind of changes the way your fellowship would start. So that's like one of the things to just know if that's appealing to you or not. And then some programs are very flexible about what advanced degree you'd get. So MPH versus like a med ed degree, or kind of more of a policy at like a hospital, like an administration type thing. Like there's a lot of different options out there. And it's really, this is like fellowship's actually really what you want it to be. That's really what fellowship directors want, is they want you getting the training that you want to get so that you can have the career that you want. Like we want to match what, like be able to match what you need with what we can provide. And so that's really what a lot of the interview conversations are about, is trying to figure out if things are lining up to where we can actually provide the types of experiences that you're looking for.
Thank you.
yeah, great. Yeah. So I encourage those of you who are interested in applying this year or in the coming years, take a little time to do some soul searching. And, you might not have answers to every single question or know exactly, what you want to do. And that's okay as well too. But try to think about some of those bigger picture questions. And then as you're exploring the programs on the website, then you'll be able to kind of narrow it down more and then apply to the places, ask those kind of more detailed questions as kind of as your career, as you envision it, starts to take shape and things like that. So great. If there are any other questions from potential applicants, please feel free to keep posting them in the chat. Obviously, you can email us after this as well too with any other questions as the application and interview process gets going for the year. But I do want to spend just a little bit of time now and transition to those of you who I know are program directors or kind of on the other side of things. And applicants, feel free to stay on as well to kind of get the what is happening on the back end of things. But I just want to kind of do a little bit of that too for those of you who are going to be working through the websites as well. So for those of you who are program directors or coordinators or kind of on the back end of the process, let me go ahead and share my screen. So when you go to log in, so all of you should have received from Melissa or SAM at some point an institutional login for your program. So with that, when you log into the website, so you have your institutional login. This is our UPenn Global institutional login with password. And so when I do that and log in to the website, just give me 1 second. The Zoom bar keeps moving in my way. There we go. So for those who are editing your page and updating information, so when you log in and you go to current programs, so since I logged in under UPenn, I cannot access any of these other programs except for, as I get down here to UPenn, mine. Now this new button has popped up as it scrolls down, edit. So when you go into then actually do that, this is how you edit your own page. So if you need to update anything about your interview days, your application process, you have to use that institutional login to log in, and then this button will become available. And sorry, it's a little bit slow tonight, but it's pretty straightforward then when you log in here to edit this stuff. It's basically just like Word boxes. It's very much like the old website for those of you who did that. So you're able to just type things into these boxes, add in websites, add in pictures in terms of like logos, all of that, and it seems like a lot less restriction too than the previous website on uploading photos. So I know before sometimes there were errors when you uploaded websites or videos that they weren't the right file size or file type. Like these were pretty easy. I just clicked on a bunch of pictures, hit the upload button, and they were already up. So there are some guidelines, but at least I didn't really have any issues uploading that. You can upload a video if you want to. It gives you instructions how to do that. I would say the only trick, and I'm going to scroll down here, that took me a little while to get to, was current projects. There wasn't a clear way to edit these. So if you actually click on them, there wasn't a way to delete that or edit it here, but if you actually click on the project itself, you can edit it there. And then if you do want to delete it, this is how you actually remove it from there. So for example, if you have a new program coordinator that you want to add or someone changes over, you do that the same way. So that was just a little less intuitive, that you actually had to kind of click into the project and then there was a way to remove it at the bottom rather than just as we go back to this website, the kind of the main thing, I can't just highlight this and delete it. So that's probably the only kind of thing. And people as well too, you can't just highlight them and delete them. You have to click on them and you can remove them that way. So if that needs to be done for the program, but otherwise, yeah, pretty straightforward. I think there's people kind of already programmed in the website too that are SAM members and stuff. So clicking on that, so it's pretty easy to add those type of things. So for those of you who are program directors, program coordinators editing the site, you log in with your institutional login. And if you do not have that, let SAM know and they will get you your institutional login. And that should be shared from anyone who's going to be updating your website. So it's one login to share around whoever's going to be updating the website. All right. And then when you also log in and go to that application portal, so if you're going to be logging in to review applications, so I've logged in as myself to be able to review applications. So ignore this bottom part because I'm also on the fellowship approval program. So I have you know, applications there to review because it's all done through SurveyMonkey Apply. But when you start to get fellowship applications in, you should get emails. And then you can log in to the application portal. And as you log in as a reviewer, then it comes up to this dashboard, and it'll show you the different applications that you have to review. And so then you just click on that. And so here we have a test application. So, you know, it'll show you all the different applications that you have to review. You can click on it. And then you can go through the entire application. So if you click on the application, you can basically just scroll down through this and see all of it. So everything that they had posted into that common application. As we scroll down more, there's the curriculum vitae, so the CV. You can actually even just preview it here and go through that, or you can download it. Like, for example, if you wanted to send it to other reviewers who did not want to log into this for some reason, all of that is in here to look at. So you can scroll through the entire application, you know, personal statements. This is a document, kind of a test document that was uploaded as well too. It's all right here kind of on the left to navigate. And then the letters of recommendation as well too will be here. So it's really easy just to see it all in one place. And then you can download the entire application right up here as, you know, one complete document if you need to send it to other reviewers, like if you're having other folks who don't want to log on to this application, or that, you know, just want to have it in a different format to be able to review before you make a decision. But then there's this option over here to make these decisions to help you organize it. So then the website itself will help you organize your application. So this does not go to the applicant. This is one very important tip for those of you who are deciding who to interview and things like that. None of this information here goes to the applicant. When you actually or want to invite someone to interview, then you have to email them separately, okay? So none of this decision is sent through to the applicant from here. This is purely for note-taking for your own program. And then in future years, we're going to see how this pans out, but we're hopefully going to be able to then to keep track of, you know, applicants, how many were interviewed, you know, how many then like accepted and all of that kind of stuff. We're still kind of working out some things. So we've had some questions from program directors about, okay, so what happens if I end up hiring one of the people that was our fellows in the past, and then like, can they then get in the system when they're reviewing applications and see like the comments that were made on them in the past? We're still trying to figure out, and we'll see how this pans out over the next few years, how we could maybe archive things, or you can put things like into different folders, you know, that can only be seen by like the program director or whatnot. But for now, at least all of this information here, any comments, stay within the application portal, so don't go directly to the applicants or anything else. So, but if you do have folks that you bring on later on who you interviewed in the past, we'll be working on that in the next few years on how that actually works. So then, yeah, you can say this as draft, mark as incomplete, and then so let's say we're going to accept, mark as complete, return to assignments. So I can go back and review that and go back to my dashboard. And, you know, it shows me that things are complete for I've reviewed all of the applications that have been for the Global EM Fellowship applications for that. Any questions from any program directors or coordinators about the process?
Is
editing your website, logging into the portals, how to review applications, all of that.
The logging to the website, I think I've figured out, and getting stuff edited. I think now that I couldn't figure out how to do that same like current program thing, like, so I definitely needed to know that. But is there a way, can we send out invites for interviews through this? Is there a way to reach out to the applicant through this, or is that something that's better done via email?
Yeah, from what I was told, there really isn't a direct way to communicate back with the applicant through the website. So all that is kind of, everything kind of comes to you as the program. This is a website to help kind of manage those applications and kind of then look back historically, like on previous years and all that. But then in order to actually invite someone to interview, so this is very important, you have to email them directly. Yeah, there isn't a way, as far as I know, through this website to then communicate with the applicant.
this looks really amazing, I have to say. Very exciting for this coming year.
Yeah, folks at SAM, Crystal, your entire team, we are so very grateful for all of the work that all of you guys did over this last year to make this happen and to make it look so much like the old website, and all of that too, just to help us out. We really owe you a huge debt of gratitude. This is a great website. I think it's going to be good for everyone going forward. I'm sure there's going to probably be little things that, as there is with anything, we tried to troubleshoot it as best as possible as it was getting developed. But yeah, this is fantastic. Like, huge shout out to the SAM team for this.
Yeah, very much seconded. Thank you guys so much for putting in all the work to get this ready over the past year. Any other questions?
And just before we end, I think we've got about 4 minutes left or so. I just want to go back and highlight these instructions that I showed the links on the main website, but you can see as you go into each one of these. So for completing the standardized application form, for viewing applications here, and for recommenders as well too. These are great documents. It really does take you step by step through everything. Like, when you click on this is what the page looks like. If you have any questions, like, this is who you email. And then even like pro tips, like I was saying before, let me scroll all the way down here. Oh, yeah, so pro tip. So once you've completed the initial application, you can reuse the same data. So it kind of gives you the tips and tricks to try to save time, make this, as least amount of effort and time for everyone involved in terms of applicants. We know you've, applied a million times to a million different things, and reviewers as well too. That simple way of just scrolling through the entire application on the left side, trying to make that as simple as possible for everyone. So if you do get stuck, I refer you to these instruction pages first, and then obviously you can reach out on the many, many different contacts that are available to you through SAM and the GEMFC.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Barczyk, for this awesome presentation. I think this was super helpful to kind of get everybody familiar with the new website and kind of the process of applying. It's a little bit different than the residency application cycle was.
Yeah.
So it's definitely nice to get the summary for this. Last pause for any other questions. All right. Okay. I usually give myself 30 seconds for those. So I think it's been that long. All right. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you all for joining. Again, any other questions, reach out. Best of luck in the interview season for those of you who are applicants. I look forward to seeing your applications to the UPenn program. And yeah, thanks so much. And again, a huge thank you to SAM for all of the work this year, and for Dr. Feltes for being our fearless leader as we go through the first application season with this new way of doing things. So.
All right. Thank you so much, and best of luck to all the applicants. Now it's my turn for a plug. I hope to see you all applying to Stanford. So thank you all.
All right. Take care, everyone. Have a great night.
Have a good night.